For a moment, I was at a loss. It wasn't until my husband, who stood there defiantly, threw a vase and it shattered that I finally grasped the situation. I was soaked with the water from the vase, thanks to my husband. Make sure you clean up the room before I come back. Yes, I'll make sure it's clean. It was my fault for dozing off. After giving me a thorough scolding, my husband left for his business trip with a look of satisfaction. He must have thought he could say anything to me, knowing I had nowhere else to turn. His behavior became more and more domineering. He had no idea that soon, he would have no home to return to. My name is Jessica Parker, and I'm 36 years old. I married my husband, Michael, 5 years ago. You could say ours was an office romance. Since we started at the company at the same time, we freely vented about work and supported each other, which led to us dating. From there, things naturally progressed to marriage. I didn't quit my job after getting married. Thankfully, my boss, Karen, even said, feel free to take maternity or parental leave, so we planned with that in mind. However, we struggled to conceive. Could it be that you are infertile? What? It's not necessarily just my problem, is it? No, usually these matters are mostly on the woman's side. That was a point of contention between us. But after years of fertility treatments, I finally became pregnant. Michael was not enthusiastic about the treatments, so I used my savings from before our marriage to pay for them. It almost emptied my savings, but I was truly happy to be pregnant. Then came another shock. What? Twins. I was blessed with twins. The thought of raising twins I hadn't yet met was intimidating, but Michael was ecstatic. Twins are definitely adorable. Wow, I can't wait. This is going to be amazing. Haha. His laid-back attitude irritated me at times, but I was also pleased, thinking he was trying to cheer me up in his own way. Despite some difficulties during the pregnancy, both babies were born healthy. We had a boy and a girl. We named them Alex and Emily. Raising twins was indeed a monumental task. Since my recovery after childbirth was slow, both our mothers came to help, but when they had to leave after a month, I broke down crying from the stress. I can't manage both of them on my own. Please don't go. I was emotionally fragile, but it was a sincere plea. But our mothers had their own lives. It was a lot to even have them stay for a month. I'll do my best too. Let's raise them together. After being persuaded by Michael, I somehow managed to calm down. Hearing, Jessica, you're not alone, as he patted my head brought me some comfort. But I soon faced the reality. Michael was all talk. Raising them together was just a fantasy. He wouldn't lift a finger unless prompted. The idea of anticipating needs and acting proactively seemed beyond him. Sometimes, even when I asked for help, he would refuse. Change Alex's diaper. I'm breastfeeding Emily right now. All right, all right. Oh no. Impossible, he's done poo. Jessica, you handle it. My husband flatly refused to change diapers if it was a poo. But, I'm breastfeeding right now. Just change it after you're done. Modern diapers are so good, they can wait that long. The smell is making me sick. I feel like throwing up. I need a break. What? Hey. Michael. This was how it went. To Michael, parenting was something he did when he felt like it, and only what he felt like doing. In the end, it was always up to me to act. When the twins turned 1, I decided to go back to work. Perhaps because we lived in a less populated area, thankfully, both kids got spots in daycare. Returning to work after a long time, everyone, including my colleagues, was kind. Despite being back at work, I felt like a newcomer all over again. Many people sympathized, saying, it must be hard balancing work and childcare. But honestly, life was easier after the kids started daycare. I could eat lunch without worrying about the twins and even chat with colleagues. Single-handedly taking care of the kids was harder for me. However, there were troubling times too. It was when the kids fell ill. I had to leave early or take sudden days off, apologizing to everyone around me each time. Of course, I asked Michael for help, but he acted as if it was none of his concern. I was working while you were off. It's hard, you know. He was making excuses that didn't make any sense. When I looked upset, he'd say, "If you're going to make that face, you shouldn't have gone back to work." I was told so. Then, about 3 months after I returned to work, in the presence of my mother-in-law, Michael said to me, "Kids should be taken care of by their mothers at home until at least they're 3. Putting them in daycare so young is why they get sick so easily. Don't you feel bad for causing trouble at work?" What is he talking about? I do feel bad about work. Unlike you, who can freely work overtime, I'm struggling, yet I'm working my hardest. Don't act like you know everything. I wanted to shout that, but I held back because my mother-in-law was there. The mother-in-law who was present seemed somewhat uncomfortable, but she appeared to mostly agree with Michael. Maybe it's better if you don't overwork yourself. If you're in trouble, just let us know. We can help financially, right? Faced with that, I couldn't say I wanted to keep working. So, I resigned and went back to the life of single-handedly taking care of the kids. But something was different from before. It was our income. Unlike during my previous maternity leave, now that I had quit, my income was 0. Michael's income was not substantial. Naturally, our family's financial situation became tighter. "Hey, about this month's payments, it's tough because of the car tax." What? So what? Despite knowing the situation, Michael responded with an irritable tone. Still, I tentatively said to him, "Could we maybe ask your parents for a little help?" My mother-in-law had said, "You can always rely on us." So, I thought maybe he could ask them. But he clearly didn't like the idea. Huh? What do you mean? Are you planning to mooch off my family? It's not mooching. I was thinking we could pay them back once I start working again. No way, that's not happening. We are not borrowing any money. Figure it out. Managing the household budget is your job. That's how he always ended the conversation. Even after that, I tried to negotiate with him whenever he seemed to be in a good mood, but it was futile. Even if he said to figure it out, my savings from before we were married were gone because I had used them for infertility treatments. My family was a single-parent household and didn't have money to lend. After much thought, I decided to sell my car. By selling it, I was able to get some money, albeit a small amount. When I told Michael, he seemed somewhat pleased. I always thought it was unnecessary. You're always at home anyway, you don't need a car. It's better this way. In this area, where bus services are sparse, a car was essential. From now on, any outings with the twins would have to be on foot. What about shopping? Tears welled up, but I managed to hold them back. By this time, I had started to consider divorce. Michael continued to only participate in childcare when he felt like it. He did love the children. But still, only when he felt like it. Such incidents accumulated, and I could no longer see a future with him. I wanted to discuss the possibility of divorce with my mother first. But I couldn't, due to a certain reason. It was my grandmother's care. She had fallen ill a while back and required constant care. So, my mother moved in with her and was taking care of her while also working. I couldn't bring up my divorce issues and add stress to my mother. I couldn't say it, thinking that. Moreover, with my grandmother there, I couldn't go back to my family home even if I divorced. No job, no savings, no home to return to. With this situation, I couldn't bring myself to go through with the divorce. Knowing I had nowhere to flee, Michael's behavior grew increasingly arrogant. He would complain about the lack of dishes at dinner or click his tongue if the room was messy. He turned into an absolute tyrant. Unable to stand up to him, I just tried not to upset him. Before I knew it, the children were 2 years old. They were adorable, but with their growing self-awareness, they were not easy to handle. And there were 2 of them. Today, as soon as I took my eyes off them, the carpet was mercilessly covered in countless lines drawn with a permanent marker. Ah. Messed up again. Eh. Where did you get the permanent marker from? It was supposed to be in the drawer. Ah. Michael again. I scolded the children for now. 2 crying children. But it was before nap time, and they were probably sleepy too. No sooner had they cried than they fell asleep. While waiting for the right moment to put down the children I was holding under each arm, I sighed. I have to sort this out before Michael comes home. I'm sleepy. The night waking has started again recently. First, I need to go upstairs. That's when my consciousness faded. Hey. What are you doing? Ah. When I woke up next, I was soaking wet. For a moment, I didn't understand what had happened. Standing in front of me was Michael, looking furious as if he were a wrathful deity. While I'm out there breaking my back working, you're here napping. Must be nice. With that, Michael carelessly threw something near me. There was a clinking sound. That's when my mind finally cleared. It was a vase that had broken. I had fallen asleep without realizing it, and Michael had thrown the water from the vase on me. Not only was I shocked by the water, but I was also terrified that he had thrown the vase. It could have hit me if things had gone slightly differently. Or maybe he didn't care if it did hit me. But what about Alex and Emily? I quickly looked around and heard the children's laughter and the sound of a TV cartoon coming from a gap in the sliding door to the next room. Thank goodness. Hey. Are you even listening? Yes. I answered, looking down. Man, I'm so jealous. I'm exhausted and you're just sleeping peacefully. It must be nice to be a housewife and have it so easy. There's no point in arguing with him when he's like this. I just said, I'm sorry, without looking up. Seriously. And? You've got everything ready for my business trip starting tomorrow, right? Yes. I handed him the bag packed with underwear, shirts, and other overnight essentials. He glanced inside and nodded. Great, just what I needed before a trip, this kind of hassle. Ah, so irritating. I'm sorry. Looking up through the strands, I saw him smiling with satisfaction. Make sure you clean up the room before I get back. Yes, I'll make sure it's tidy. Oh. You said it, right? Make it spotlessly clean. Remember, you have nowhere else to go. Just do as I say. When I nodded, he seemed utterly pleased with himself. He left the house humming a tune. After hearing the door close and his car drive away, I opened the sliding door to the next room. Alex. Emily. There were the twins, playing and laughing, and my mother, trying her best to cover their ears, tears streaming down her face. Seeing me, my mother gently let go of the children and hugged me tightly. Mom. Jessica. You've done so well. You've been so strong. As she said this, she hugged me even tighter. In fact, a few hours before Michael returned, my mother had been at our house since that morning. She had contacted me in the morning. Grandma has been moved to a facility, she said. They had been looking for a place for a while, and they finally found one. That means I can come and help you, she had told me, going out of her way to let me know. At her thoughtfulness, I couldn't help but cry over the phone. My mother came to visit because she was worried. I can't believe Michael would do such terrible things. I had told her some things beforehand, but she probably didn't expect it to be this bad. I certainly didn't expect to have water thrown on me. Anger was evident in my mother's voice. Before I fell asleep, my mother had been upstairs hanging laundry. And when she came down, we were still sleeping, she said. The children woke up first, so she played with them in the next room to not wake me up. She wanted to intervene right away, but fearing for the children, she instead turned up the TV volume and covered their ears as a small measure of protection. My mother must have been scared too. Thank you, Mom. My mother nodded. First, take a bath and relax. Then we can talk, she said, patting my shoulder. After the bath, I found my mother on the phone. Thank you very much, she said cheerfully as she ended the call. Mom? Who were you talking to? She smiled and shared the details with me. She even explained her plans for the future. After hearing everything, I thought it sounded exciting. But I wonder if it will really work out. Don't worry. I'm here with you. Let's do our best together, she said and hugged me tightly again. At that moment, I couldn't have imagined how far my mother was willing to go. The next day, I was at my former workplace seeking advice. Having my mother on my side was reassuring, but money was my biggest concern regarding the divorce. I was likely to get custody, but I doubted Michael would willingly pay child support. I don't have any special qualifications. Returning to my old job would be ideal. I didn't want to work at the same place as Michael, but if we were in different departments, I could avoid seeing him. Even if I couldn't return, getting any information about opportunities in the same industry would be helpful. I thought it was worth a shot to ask. That's what I had in mind. Karen, my former boss, greeted me with a smile, saying, "Long time no see." Karen was a woman I admired. I had even confided in her when I had problems with Michael. It's been a while. I'm sorry for the sudden visit. That's fine. What do you want to talk about? I hesitated about how much to share since Michael would continue working there. It probably wasn't a good idea to mention that he had thrown a vase of water at me. I didn't want to make things awkward for Karen. I simply told her that I was considering a divorce and looking for work to support myself. I'd be happy to return here, but if not, do you know of any good opportunities? I knew it was a lot to ask, but I was desperate. Karen must have been surprised. However, her response was unexpected. I thought so. Sorry? What do you mean? Jessica, I hate to bring up unpleasant topics, but can you stay calm and listen? Karen began to speak seriously. Her story was shocking but somehow made sense. Is that so? I'm sorry you had to hear this. No, thank you. This information might work to my advantage. Thank you so much. I was glad I had consulted with Karen. While it might seem odd to be happy about such news, it was an unexpected benefit. And there was more. Karen spoke to the higher-ups about my return. And thanks to a need for more staff, my reemployment was quickly decided. I'm on your side, Jessica. Do your best. But don't overdo it. We'll be waiting, she said. Thank you so much. Well, it's not just me. I think everyone is on your side, Jessica. Karen laughed. One less worry for me. Now, all that's left is to settle things with Michael. A few days later, I received a call from Michael while I was at my parents' house with the kids. Hey. What's this all about? He was yelling as usual, but there was a hint of panic in his voice this time. What do you mean? I heard you're planning to return to work. I got the info. It must have been Karen's doing. She said she would spread the word to make it easier for me to return. But I didn't expect the news to reach Michael on his business trip. How did you know? Who told you? It was a simple question. But for some reason, he hesitated to answer. Even when I pressed him, he dodged the question. Anyway. There's also a rumor that we're getting a divorce. We need to squash that rumor right away, so I'm heading to the company now. There's no way I'm letting you return. Right now? What about your business trip? I'm on my way back. Let's meet at the office. Handle the kids somehow. Don't bring them along. He sounded desperate. He might act big at home, but his image at the company seems important to him. Of course, I knew there were other reasons too. I messaged Karen, I'll be stopping by, and headed to the office. Michael had already arrived. He glared at me for a moment when he saw me, but quickly switched to a smile. Such a facade. Where are our kids? Mom's looking after them at home. I see. We entered the building where our workplace was located. As soon as we reached the floor of my old department and entered the room. Welcome back. Everyone exclaimed in unison. Looking around, I saw my former colleagues, superiors, and juniors approaching with smiles and clapping their hands. Michael and I were quickly surrounded. Karen was among the crowd. She took my hand and said again, "Welcome back." Michael, standing next to me, had a forced smile, clearly flustered. "Eh? Why is everyone gathered here?" he asked with a forced laugh. Karen responded. "We saw Jessica and just had to come. You know, she's returning next month? We're all looking forward to it." Next month? That's soon. Ignoring Michael, who looked utterly confused, I talked with my other colleagues and Karen. By the way, where are your kids today? My mom's watching them. Right, they're not in daycare yet. Seizing what he thought was an opportunity, Michael's eyes lit up. That's right. Even though I've been offered to return, we haven't secured a daycare spot yet. There's no one to look after our kids. I was actually planning to decline the return offer today. Eh? What are you talking about, Michael? Karen looked at Michael with a puzzled expression. He was taken aback. What do you mean what? I'm just stating the facts. Michael, you seem to be quite out of the loop. Didn't you know? A daycare center has been established within the company. Eh? To bewildered Michael, Karen explained simply. The daycare center is a childcare facility located within the company. It's a place where employees' children are taken care of, and currently, there is enough capacity to accommodate all children of employees who wish to use it. So, no problem there. Karen explained with a smile, and Michael, with a strained smile on his face, said, I see. But the daycare only takes children up to age 3, so after that, you'll need to find another solution, she added. At this, his eyes lit up again. Well, that's tough luck, then. Our kids are almost 3, right? Right, Jessica? He looked to me for agreement, so I tilted my head in confusion. What? Why would that be a problem? It should be fine. Eh? But, you know, I've heard so many stories about daycare rejections. And with twins, it must be even harder. He mumbled, so I couldn't help but say. It'll be fine. Single parents usually get some priority, after all. What? Single parent? Seizing the moment, I pulled out pieces of paper I had been waiting to use. With everyone watching, I handed them to Michael. What are these? They are divorce papers. Michael, please divorce me. Holding the divorce papers, he trembled. Why? You should know why. What you've done to me, and what you haven't done for me, I'll never forget. He flinched for a moment, then shook his head in denial. That's just a minor misunderstanding. You can't divorce over something like that. Oh, should I mention a more significant reason for divorce, then? Like your affair, perhaps? He visibly flinched. His complexion turned pale. What? No, she's just. Playing dumb won't help. Everyone knows. The client's daughter, right? Weren't you accompanied by her on your business trip? I heard someone saw you, I confronted him. He tried to deny it with, no, that's not it, but his eyes were darting around, betraying his nervousness. This was the crucial piece of information Karen had shared with me. How dare you act all high and mighty? What about, housewives have it easy, huh? You're the one taking it easy by dumping childcare on me and having affairs. I retorted. He stammered, but that's. I was depressed working in the same place as you, but thankfully, it looks like I won't have to anymore. Despite being married, he had made advances towards a client's daughter. He was bound to face appropriate consequences for his actions. He was lost for words, but I'll be leaving first. You get a good scolding, I declared and turned to leave. Wait. Jessica. Wait. He tried to stop me, but everyone around us held him back. Later, he would face a thorough reprimand, but the drama didn't end there. As I was about to take a bath that evening, my phone rang. It was Michael. Hello? Hey. Jessica, what's this about? He sounded on the verge of tears. Perhaps already crying. What's wrong? When I got home, the house was gone. Completely empty. What's going on? Where are you? Where are Alex and Emily? He panicked. I simply replied, and explained. After he left for his business trip, the person my mother had been talking to on the phone was a real estate agent. We had decided to sell the house, as we had been considering for some time. You sold our house without my permission, he exclaimed. The house was in my name. I was the one who paid for it. You didn't contribute a penny because it was old and secondhand, I reminded him. The real estate agent, happy with the arrangement, quickly proceeded with the sale. We were introduced to a new property through the agent and moved out hastily. Furthermore, the agent was more interested in the land, so it was swiftly cleared. Michael must have been shocked to return to nothing. I was hoping we could talk when I got back, he said, his voice breaking. I have nothing to discuss with you. Think about how you've exploited and treated me all this time, I coldly stated. He whimpered, but I felt no sympathy. I cleaned up the place just as you wanted. Spotlessly clean, indeed. I said sarcastically and hung up. After saying that, I immediately hung up the phone. It seemed like there were several more calls afterward, but I didn't bother to check. Without any concern, I went to take a bath with my twins. Michael was adamant, I don't want a divorce. But with the persuasion of his parents, the divorce was finally finalized just the other day. Of course, there was alimony and child support involved. Michael became infamous as the married man who hit on his work colleagues and eventually had to quit his job. Now, he's working at a factory, thanks to his parents' connections. Given his high pride, I imagine it's tough for him every day. As for me, I'm living a peaceful life with my mother and kids. I'm constantly amazed by the difference between my ex-husband and my mother and can't help but feel grateful every day. This experience has reinforced my belief that parenting isn't something to be done alone. Karen also visits occasionally to play with my kids. My kids are still a handful, but with the current situation, I'm confident we'll be okay. It looks like there's a bright future ahead.